Dario, you've said that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment to 10 to 20%. How soon might that happen?
I would not be surprised if somewhere between 1 and 5 years, we started to see big effects here.
Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, has predicted that 50% of all entry-level white-collar jobs are not going to be there in the near future. Is this true? Is this hype? I want to give you my opinions on what I think are, quite frankly, some outlandish claims here. So we have to first look at people like Darius and why their opinions are publicly stated as they are. What is his motive? Darius has raised billions in VC investment. Darius has an awful lot of pressure in order to not only compete with OpenAI, but all of the new upstart AI companies as well. His investors demand a return on investment. And when you've raised billions and people are expecting a 100x return on investment, you have an awful big mountain to climb. So you have to keep the hype going for your technology. You have to say that you have things in the skunk works that no one knows about and no one has talked about publicly that absolutely blow the competition out of the water. Trust me, bro. Now, with that aside, looking at his opinions, I do think he is right in some ways. I think he's overhyped. I think he is predicting this will happen faster and easier than ever before. And I think that people who are at the forefront of technology disruptions are often overly optimistic at how easy it is going to be to complete the disruption. Right? I build technology myself. At the start of any technology project, I am really, really excited. I am incredibly confident that this is going to work. I can see all of the possibilities and how they play out. And I am confident that with enough blood, sweat, and tears, we will make this thing work. But the reality is most disruptions don't work. Most disruptions take longer than we were predicting and we're going to think. And incredibly, humans often discount the extent that a new technology will disrupt the world, but often overestimate the pace in which it will do that. So it takes longer, but it disrupts more than they've ever predicted it will happen. So why do I feel like Darius is maybe a little bit wrong here? And I think the thing I will say, technologists are technology obsessed. We love the things that we build, and we think that technology is the solution to most of humanity's problems. Otherwise, we wouldn't do what we do. We feel like if we systematize, if we integrate, if we add more servers, more hardware, more power, that we could solve some of the biggest issues that humanity faces and live in a more utopian state, in a better, more beautiful world. And I think that often is the case. But in doing so, in being so technology obsessed, in thinking in systems, we often underestimate the capabilities of our fellow humans and the beauty of the machine that is the human mind, something that took millions of years to evolve, which I think is one of the most miraculous structures in the universe, quite frankly, that I think we're really heavily discounting right now. So I don't think jobs for junior white-collar staff are going to disappear. I think they're going to change. I think they will change fundamentally and they will evolve, but I don't think they will disappear. And I hate the narrative that we have around AI, where we're trying to say this is the only technology that humanity has ever invented that is going to act differently to every single other technology disruption that humanity has ever put in place in the history of the world. Why is AI different? People say it's the first time that we've invented machines that don't do the work of the muscle. Welcome to the gun show. We don't do the work of the muscle, okay? They do the work of the brain. And this is the first time this has ever happened in human history. And I just think that is patently false, okay? And I'll give you an example. We used to have accountants and bookkeepers writing manual ledgers in a piece of paper big large tomes, and they'd have abacuses, and they were doing manual calculations, and we'd have hordes and hordes of them to run the books for one, moderately large sized company. And then someone came along and invented the computer, and the computer scaled down so we could have it in an office. And someone at Microsoft came up with a beautiful piece of technology called Microsoft Excel, and we had spreadsheets. And suddenly all of those calculations could be done with a computer. We didn't need someone to have their brain to do the calculations and note them down anymore. We could create a formula, and then that could run repeatedly. And what happened? Did we wipe out accountants and bookkeepers? Did they become unnecessary because we replaced their brain power with the brain power of a machine in binary code? No, what happened was an explosion of the need for bookkeepers and accountants as we made it easier to collect and collate and calculate the data that a company is in possession of. We needed more bookkeepers, we needed more accountants, we needed CFOs, we need people to analyze that data. That data causes problems, those problems must be solved, or that data needs analyzing, and it must be analyzed. And so in every disruption that humanity has ever gone through, the new capabilities of a technology has exploded the potential set of problems that we can solve, and in doing so increases the total size of the economy. But in AI, we're being asked to say, well, this is the first time actually we're going to create an incredible technology. It's going to disrupt everything. It's going to change the world economy forever, but it's not going to grow the world economy. What it's going to do is just replace wholesale the world economy, and humans are out and computers are in. I mean, from a fundamental logical perspective, you're going to have mass society disruption before all humans are basically put on the job line, where you're given your bread and your water, and maybe they pump some entertainment on the TV to keep you entertained. Like, this isn't going to be a 1984 dystopia where we keep the masses subdued with those kind of things. There would be huge riots and overthrows of government long before that happened. So this economy is going to have to work for human society, but it is going to function, this technology change is going to function in the exact same way that all previous technology changes have played out. The pie is not going to shrink. The pie is not going to change who is allocated what work. The pie is going to 10x. The AI economy is a much faster, bigger, more complex economy. There is going to be new roles and new niches for humanity to fill within those systems, and we are going to delegate work and tasks to our AI counterparts. They are going to fill some roles, and we are going to fill some roles, because the two machines are fundamentally different, and we are discounting how incredible humans are. If you were to rate your current AI models, or even the most cutting edge stuff that's in the labs that they're not telling us about, please give us another billion. On a couple of areas like common sense, volition, free will, planning, the ability to operate in a political and cultural environment of a company, they would be unbelievably terrible at these things. These models cannot operate in vague, complex, messy environments. If you don't prompt a model, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't have free will. It doesn't have volition. It's almost like that image of Neo sat at his computer with the little green dot, waiting for the internet to speak back to him. Right now, these models don't have free will. And yes, people will be saying in the comments, I'm sure, but we have agents now. You can give them a prompt and they go and do things. And this is how I think that the world of work will change for these junior white-collar workers. Junior white-collar workers typically are there to manage a process, to make sure that it trundles along, to take the strategy set by their senior colleagues and peers, and to make sure it's executed and implemented. And a lot of that is manual data entry, data analysis, moving folders and files. And we're going to outsource all of that to AI agents, automation workflows, large language models, I am sure. Their role doesn't go away, it just changes. They just manage a new type of system. They're managing Excel, Word, SharePoint, and all these systems at the minute. Now they just have one more thing to manage, which is going to be the collection of AI agents which are put in place to execute on specific, vertically niched and laser focused tasks within that process. And there's going to be more work, because here's the thing, unless Dario is talking about a technology that I'm not aware of, I don't see how large language models replace humanity in terms of, like, it doesn't have common sense. It doesn't have free will. It cannot do hierarchical planning. It cannot deal with the messy real world complexities. Rand Corporation did a report recently where it showed that 80% of all AI projects fail. Why is that? Like, I've developed a lot of AI projects in my time and deployed those into enterprise environments. Why did they fail? Because it's really easy to do a pilot with an AI piece of kit, right? And say, well, look, it can do this in this little play box and this little sandbox. When we give it this exact prompt, we get this output. What an amazing piece of technology. Let's roll that out to the enterprise. And when that happens, we end up like Klarna, who says, I'm firing all of our support staff. It's all AI now. And then you roll it out into the real world messy environment, and you realize that the real world is vastly more complex, complicated, messy, noisy, and downright crazy most of the time. And that AI systems and computers do not deal with complexity, noise, vagueness very well. But you know who does? Humans. And this is why I get so frustrated that technologists discount the technology that is the human brain. It is one of the most incredible systems I can think of. Think about the problem of self-driving cars, right? We've had predictions now that next year is the year that we have autonomous cars. There's going to be no more taxi drivers. There's going to be no more lorry drivers. You won't drive to work. You won't pick your kids up from school because there's going to be a fleet of robots out there doing that. And yes, we have Waymo and we have Tesla that's done billions of autonomous miles, but we still need human in the loop for those systems right now because of a fundamental problem. They call it the chasing of the nines of the reliability, right? AI and these computer vision models and these machine learning systems need examples to learn from. They can learn the kind of 90% state of driving, the normal everyday, I'm trundling down the road, there's other cars, there's a bike, there's a pedestrian trying to cross the road, and there's a red light, green light, go, stop, whatever. It can do that. And then you dump 1,000 rubber ducks on the road that's spilled out from a truck all over the road. They are everywhere. And for the first time ever, this unbelievably unlikely situation is encountered by a computer. And the computer freezes and says, oh my God, what the hell is this? I don't know what a rubber duck is. I don't know why they're on the road. I don't know how to navigate through this. And I am programmed at that point to just stop. And you'll see these videos of Waymo and Teslas. They meet the uncommon situations and they grind to a halt. But you know who doesn't do that? A 16-year-old, 18-year-old, depending if you're in America or the UK, 16 to 18-year-old new driver. We've had training in the real world over those years, and the new driver will be shocked, stunned, and oh my God, there's rubber ducks all in the road. And you know what they'll then do? They'll slowly navigate a path round, or they'll reverse, change direction, and replot their course. And that demonstrates the amazing capabilities of humans. We are contextual beasts. We are highly specialized forms of intelligence that, because it's every day for us, we completely discount and say this isn't really something that is that special. But we are highly specialized. We are incredibly specialized to deal with ambiguity, real-world messy noise and data, vague requests. We have an internal drive to work towards an objective. We don't need to be prompted. We just do. You know, leave humans alone for long enough and they start building strange things, messing around, playing games. We do stuff. We get bored. Do I think Dario is right? I think he is right in some ways. 50% of white-collar jobs will not be there anymore. Yes, we will outsource some of that work to AI and AI agents and large language model automation flows. Yes. And I actually think it will probably be more disruptive than that in the long term. Does that mean that those people no longer have a place in the world and no longer have a job in the world? I don't think so, because I think that AI and the productivity gains that AI gives us explodes the world's economy. It makes the pie bigger. And inside that bigger pie, we have more problems. We have more messy real world situations that humans are incredibly adept at dealing with. Bar a technological breakthrough where we're not talking about large language models, we're talking about a completely different system, maybe one like Jan LeCun is talking about. Bar that, I don't see how large language model technology scales to be able to deal with complexity. Hallucinations in that technology are not a bug. People talk about fixing the hallucination problem. That's not a bug. It is a feature. We need this technology to be able to hallucinate content. If you take that away from it, it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. This is all it's doing, right? And I don't see how we give these systems free will. I don't see how we give them incredible common sense, right? These large language models up until a few months ago were struggling to predict how many R's are in the word strawberry. We had to do specific training to overcome that nonsensical answer. They will lie, they will make things up when it's vague because they've been trained to be congruent. And this is another place that I think junior members of staff will be incredibly useful. If any of you have worked in a service-based industry with your clients before, you know one thing, that your clients ask for stupid things all of the time. And half of the job of a consultant, even on a junior level, is managing the requests of the clients and directing them to ask the right questions and talking them down from the cliff edge to be like, don't do that. That is a silly idea, and here's why. So I think be skeptical of people like Dario because he has a vested interest in convincing you, investors, and consumers that his technology is the best, that you should invest in building your systems using their technology because down the road, there is a magical system that's going to replace all humanity and you will get the uplift in that technology if you come and build in our ecosystem. That's what he's saying between the lines. If you just read those articles, it gets massive attention, which is exactly what it's designed to do, right? We have multiple news articles reporting on the outlandish statement that he has said, and that achieves his PR goals, it achieves his marketing goals, it draws attention to the technology they've got, it helps raise investment, it helps bring developers to build in their ecosystem rather than OpenAI's or Google's, etc. They are at war with each other right now, and they are saber-rattling between each other right now. But let's think about it. As Rand reported, 80% of all AI projects fail. I have experienced this in my life. It is much more difficult to take this technology out of pilot and to make it work in the real world environment because the real world environment is messy, noisy, and chaotic. Humans excel in that world. AI crumbles in that world. And that is where you can hang your hat and say, I will manage AI, I will make sure AI does its job properly. I will work with AI to be more productive than I have ever been in my life. But AI will not replace me. AI will accelerate me. It is human and AI together, human-AI symbiosis that makes the next 10x of the world economy possible.